Hi, Aquarius. Welcome to your April 2018 Astro Update. It's Rena here. So for you, Aquarius, the month begins with the Mercury retrograde that began on March 22nd, still in play in your third house of communications. Now, this is the house that Mercury rules. So it's dealing with communication issues. The internet is a big part of the third house in 2018. And so anything that you have been doing that is online, like maybe maintaining a blog or a YouTube channel, or if you have your own business and you're online, there may be things that you have to be retooling, like reorganizing your website is an example. And you just may naturally be in this progress. You might not know there's a Mercury retrograde, but you suddenly have to do something that pertains to that. And it's a good time for that, actually. But there can be misunderstandings related to emails that you're sending, anything to do with contracts. I mean, for everybody, they say, don't sign contracts during Mercury retrograde. Well, that depends. If you don't have a choice, that would be pretty foolish to be afraid of signing a contract versus not doing it at all. But anyhow, that may be kind of first and foremost on your mind if there's something very important in that area that needs tending to. Also, the third house is your siblings. So that's your brothers and sisters. It can be cousins. I'm not sure about other extended family members. But so there could be some kind of a misunderstanding with them, or they're coming back into your life. Maybe you haven't been dealing with them, and all of a sudden you're talking to them a lot. I have a feeling that could very well be the case for some of you, because there is the sun going into the fourth house of home and family on the 19th. So the sun is in both the third and the fourth houses during the month of April. And Venus is in that fourth house until the 24th. The new moon is in the third house at 26 Aries on the 15th of April. And so there seems to be this trend of touching base with family members. Mercury goes direct the same day as that new moon. So there may be something that happens where perhaps you're just not seeing eye to eye with a sibling, and you're like speaking in a different language to one another. And then you kind of, say your piece, and it's like you both understand one another. It's like everything becomes clear about the other person and what they've been going through, their struggles. So you may even get some insight into certain things, and it could put you in a whole new relationship with them, even though you may have known them. Well, if they're your siblings, you've known them all your life, but depending on how old you are, this could be for decades. But there's something that gets said that kind of squares the two of you away. And so I think it's pretty interesting and certainly divinely timed that the Mercury direct and the new moon in Aries, both of them are in Aries, happen on the same day, because it seems like, it's indicating this new beginning, but you had to kind of hash something out ahead of time. So basically, I think that for Aquarius, this month may be a trip into the past in a certain way, because if you're dealing with family matters, you may be, talking about old memories, things that have happened. And this may or may not be easy for you. This actually could be challenging for some Aquarians who are very much detached in the form of, it's not about, I'm saying that you don't have feelings, but you do tend to regard other people as your brothers and sisters, even if they are not, they don't share your DNA. So this idea of family can be a little bit difficult for certain signs, and I think Aquarius is one of them. You're also very forward seeking or like, oriented. So you're not necessarily interested in talking about memories or the past. That can feel like very stifling even. And depending on the people that you're dealing with, you might get frustrated that they won't move on and you have already moved on. But there may be some reason that you need to be talking to your parents, especially your mother, as well as your brothers and sisters. And so Venus is in the 4th house for most of the month. That's actually very good for smoothing over any ruffled feathers, or if you're like selling a house, for instance, that could be you receiving the money from this property. This may be some family money situation, not necessarily a will, but perhaps you have an elderly parent and they are putting their house in a trust or something along those lines. I don't know, but for some reason you are being asked to deal with them, and especially with the siblings, because of the new moon being there, that's really highlighted. And let's see what else is happening. Well, the interesting thing is that there's a couple of planets transiting your 12th house now. One is Saturn, which entered Capricorn on, I believe it was December 20th, and then Pluto entered Capricorn 10 years ago. I think it was January of 2008. So Pluto's taken up residence in your 12th house for a decade, and Saturn has joined forces. And these are two of the heavies of the zodiac in terms of being very serious, sometimes challenging influences. But unlike some people, I'm more inclined to look at the beneficial aspects of this, because people will tell you that, oh my God, Saturn will create this dark night of the soul in your 12th house, and it'll make you very, just feeling the sense of everything bearing down on you, because Saturn is a karmic planet and the 12th house is karmic. So that double whammy effect, when actually Saturn in the 12th house can really, I could say force you, but I don't even want to say force you, can influence you into understanding how important a spiritual practice is in your life. And the 12th house can deal with mental health, okay? So a lot of times when people feel anxiety or depression and they are not really in touch with themselves, I think a lot of times people are not in touch with themselves, I should say. And so what happens is they know that something is not quite right, but they don't know how to turn it around. And it's not something that you can snap your fingers and do. But part of finding yourself and finding a way towards alignment is by simply being still and knowing. And that means tuning in via meditation to what your soul is yearning to tell you. There are so many voices drowning out that higher self. Voices from the outside, voices from parents and your other members of your family of, this is who you are to us. This is how we see you, how we perceive you. There are voices from your cultural influences, from your social circle. All these voices are telling you who you should be because of their own need to discover who they are. And so it's up to every one of us to have the guts to live an authentic life. And that's just how I feel about it. And I think that with the 12th house activity here, you have to undo some of that conditioning. And this could be from past lifetimes. You could call it burning off karma if you want, but I really think of it more as sorting through some of the automatic responses that you have to certain situations in life that, are coming from, your mental constructs. And the 12th house doesn't seem like that it would go along with that, but I believe that it does, because I believe that our feelings, our thoughts, and our consciousness are all part of the same kit and caboodle, okay? So we have to, in order to uplift our thoughts, we have to know exactly where our ideas are coming from. And a lot of times they're probably coming from somebody other than really you, who says, you should do this, you should do that. And some people may feel guilty about going for what they want. And, it's a free country. If you want to feel guilty about something, you can, but it's not going to, make you happy. And you can't make those people happy by ignoring your true destiny in this world so that you can please them and make them feel okay with their choices. You really can't, because they still will feel unfulfilled within themselves. It just doesn't work that way. Everyone has to feel like they are expressing themselves in a genuine way, and that other people can see who they really are. And anytime there's like this facade, it's probably going to have to be torn down at some point. So in addition to having Saturn in that house, you also have Pluto. Saturn retrogrades on April 17th in Capricorn. And the Saturn retrograde here can make things seem more difficult, because Saturn is about discipline and order and things like that. And something may be causing a delay, causing a review. And there's always going to be questioning during retrogrades. Am I going in the right direction? Am I exerting myself and putting energy into things that really serve me? In the 12th house, by the way, we're talking about addictions. So this can, sometimes lead a person to, in the 12th house, have to really be vigilant about these things in order to make sure that you don't, slack off and lose your vigilance. And obviously, this is for people who have some kind of addiction that they are working on. Because with Saturn in the 12th house, you can really manage those things quite nicely. And this can carry you for 30 years. If you're somebody who has a tendency, Aquarius, to have an addictive personality, this may already be something that you've been struggling with. But with Saturn in the 12th, I think that can be actually very good for addictions. But now that Saturn is retrograde, you may have to double down. And if you attend some kind of meetings, go twice as much or something, because you may start to feel like, hey, what's the big deal? It's, and you start to tell yourself those stories. But the other thing too is that on the 22nd, Pluto goes retrograde in that 12th house. Now the Pluto retrograde can be holding that mirror up. And for Aquarius, it's like things that you've kind of shoved under the rug coming up to the surface. The shadow self. What kind of things have you avoided facing that now you have to kind of look squarely in the eye. Remember that this too shall pass for both of these retrogrades. In a few months, they will both be direct, but the 12th house is that shadow work in general, so you're doing a lot of that in the coming years. And then on the 29th, there's a full moon in Scorpio, and this is your 10th house of career. And this can actually be a very good time for recognition from society at large, because the 10th house is kind of right up there, the top of the chart, and it's your place in the world and how people see you with your talents and say, wow, you know, this person really is good at X, Y, or Z. And you may even get a promotion. You may even get some kind of accolades with the full moon, you know, things coming to a culmination. Maybe you've worked hard for this, and now this is your moment in the sun or moon, if you will. Sometimes it can be ending, so depending on your age, you may be retiring from your career. You may be perhaps not retiring, but putting it on ice because you're going to stay home. Maybe you're preggers and you're going to give birth and then be a stay-at-home mom. Or you're a man who wants to stay home with your children or child. So, but it doesn't mean that you're going to quit permanently. You're just doing it temporarily for the sake of wanting to raise your children. So, very interesting. And on the 24th, Venus, I'm kind of like going back a little bit because I realized I wanted to let you know that Venus is going into your 5th house of romance and creativity on April 24th. So that can be very good for anything. If you're single and looking, it's awesome. It may even be whether or not you're hot and heavy with somebody yet is a different story, but at least you may have found somebody that you are admiring from across a crowded or empty room. And this may lead to something very promising, especially when there's a new moon in Gemini happening in June 13th to be exact. So, of course, that's a little bit in the future, but Venus is leading the way, and this is also a house of creativity. So it could be if you are an artist, you may get money selling your paintings or whatever you're doing. And if you have your own business, it may start to be turning a profit. So that could be because Venus can bring money to the house that she visits. So anyway, Aquarius, I hope that you enjoyed this. And if you'd like a private reading, please click on the link in the description box. Otherwise, have a great month. Take care. Bye.